Hello! Snoopy has recently taken over my life a little bit in terms of embroidery. I took a video of a Snoopy inspired beanie design that I embroidered and I posted it on Instagram, and that reel is 7 seconds long. Of course, that went viral, and so I received a lot of commissions because of that reel, which I am very grateful for. It's cool, it's great. But I, want to do my own designs and not Peanuts designs. Instead of continuing to make this design, would rather share the knowledge or share the technique, I guess, of how to make this Snoopy design, how to embroider this Snoopy design on any knitwear you would so desire, like a hat or mittens or socks or a sweater. And hopefully this will be helpful. I've never done a tutorial before, so we'll see how it goes. You guys can tell me if it's helpful or not. The commission that I'm gonna work on right now for you guys is this beige hat. Alright, here we go. For the color of Snoopy, that is white, I'm gonna just use this white yarn I got from Goodwill for $2. It's acrylic, and I tried to pair like the similar types of material together. So if the hat is synthetic, then I use a synthetic yarn, and if it's a wool hat, then I'll use wool yarn, or at least try to. That way when the item gets washed, the threads are consistent with each other, or at least that's how I think about it. These are the types of needles I like to use, these tapestry needles. Take the yarn and I'm going to kind of just squeeze it so that it sort of flattens out, and that way I can shove it through the needle. Ta-da! And then I leave that to the side and I tie a double knot at the end. So I've got the one, and I just like to do two to be extra safe. Normally I like to map out where my design is gonna go. This is like pattern chalk, and for this it's pretty light material, so I might actually instead use a charcoal pencil. So if the material is darker, then those work, but if it's not, then I want to use a kind of charcoal pencil to sketch out where it will go so I can see it. And then charcoal is nice because you can kind of just whack it and it kind of disappears, similarly to chalk. It's not going to be a permanent mark. This is the design where Snoopy's holding the heart balloon, so I want to leave some room for the heart here. And I think usually I put the heart kind of in the center, so maybe I'll start with the heart. And again, I don't need this to be super well defined. I just want to be able to see kind of where I should start and stop. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Like this is where his body is, his little belly. This is his head. So I am starting with his main body color, the white, and sometimes I'll use a embroidery hoop, but when it's a cloth material like this, it's so loose of a weave that I don't really need to, and it's kind of a personal preference. It depends on the project. There are times where I'll definitely use the hoop, and then there are times that I won't. So I just went in from the back, kind of at the top of his head, and pulled it through. And then now I kind of am just painting with the needle. It's like a centimeter long stitch maybe, and I just poke it through, and there we have a little stitch. So that's our first one. And then sometimes I'll do a back stitch, and sometimes I'll do just a slight overlap. So in this case, I'm just coming back sort of at the very end of the stitch, but just above it, and kind of coming back through in that spot to kind of continue around on this side of his head, just to get that sort of rounded shape, like that. And then I think I'll do that once more on this side of this stitch. Sometimes it takes multiple pokes to get the needle in the correct position. And then I'm going to go ahead and poke it back through. And here we have this top of his head. This is where his ear is going to be, so this side is pretty much done. So now I'll just come across this way. And see, it's being filled in nicely. There's not any gaps. You can't see any of the beige. I'm not pulling it really tight, because if I pulled it really tight, then the weave would get kind of pulled in and it would look disjointed and it would look like it was pulled too tight. So I want it to still be pretty loose, because that way it does match the looseness of this weave of the hat. And I want to remember that his head kind of comes down and then it's going to come back up a little bit to create his nose. So sometimes I'll go in an outline around the whole body and then I'll fill in, but I more enjoy just filling in as I go, kind of like spreading out the threads. That helps me see how the shape grows rather than outlining it and then just filling in. That's just a personal preference. I don't know if that matters a ton. If you do it differently and it works way better, let me know if I'm wrong. So as we go, it does look a little bit funky, but that's the charm of chunky embroidery. It looks fun. It looks like three-dimensional, textured, and interesting. It's not boring to look at. And like, it doesn't have to be all the same types of directions. For me, when I do this, if I'm filling in, if I'm like blocking in a color, you can see I'm going this way, and then I'm going this way, and then I'm going this way, and this way. I don't see the need to make all of the stitches super duper orderly. It's just more of filling in the color however that happens. You don't need to worry so much about the direction of stitches, I think. No, never be afraid to pull out stitches, because it'll always help. You won't regret pulling out stitches and redoing them. I think sometimes it feels like too much effort to pull stitches out if you don't like how they turn out, but you won't regret it, because it'll look way better if you fix it before you get way ahead of yourself. But this is about the shape of the head that I want, so I'm going to go ahead and tie this off, and then I'm going to head on down to the neck. Usually I try to finish the head where the neck is, that way I can just carry on with the same piece of thread, but in this case it didn't happen that way. I ended up at the nose, which is fine. Connect the neck. And I am looking at a reference right now. Here, I'll show you. See, I was watching Matilda Goad, but also that's the first Snoopy embroidery I ever did. So I use him as my reference because that's the video that everybody watched, and that's why people are ordering this design, so I figure I should probably use that as my reference. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the body, and then I'll come back when I switch over to black yarn. One thing I forgot to say earlier, real quick, while I'm still doing the white section, is that if you put a stitch down, right, and then you go right to the side of it, or right in front of it, then when you pull it through, it's gonna get weird. See, it's gonna pull, it's gonna kind of pull through the hat in a way that you don't want. This is not a secure thread, so if you go back through where you came from, instead of going in front, you want to kind of come from behind where you went through the back. So you're looping back behind a little bit, and that just helps your stitches be more secure. Alright, so the white is now done. I adjusted his nose area a little bit as well because I didn't like the shape it took. So now I like the shape a lot better. And to finish off with the white, I tie it in a knot at the back. And for these I just do a single knot because I'm not going to be pulling on it anymore. And then I just cut it so you can see all the spots where I did that before. Alright. So for this design, I need some chunkier black thread for the ear, but then for everywhere else I need a thin black thread. And now I'm going to go ahead and poke the needle through where the ear is going to start, like so. And then I'm just going to go ahead and create the ear shape with this color. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but the wind outside is crazy. Alright, so I'm just gonna go around and fill in this area. Kind of, the ear is a little bit like a teardrop shape, except a little bit wonky, like a wonky teardrop is how I would, that's what I would call it. I'm going to use the thick yarn still for the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and add that guy. And that's just like that. I think I'll add a little bit of extra right above it. Alright, and there he is. And for the thinner thread, I'll use a smaller needle just because it'll make it easier to pass through the hat. His eyeball is like pretty much shaped like a line or like a very long oval, and it kind of comes out right underneath his forehead, and then comes down quite short, sort of like that. And I think I'll just double up on that just to give it a little more definition. I've got my red yarn now, and it's pretty difficult to actually make a heart shape with this type of medium, because it kind of has to be, I don't know, and when I do this it's hard because if it doesn't look perfect, then I just keep going and the heart just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's more a shape that I want it to be. I mean, my charcoal lines at this point are pretty much gone because of how much I've been handling the hat, but I think it'll probably be kind of this shape, and because this is how much room is left between the foot and the base, I'll try and not let the heart come above this line. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All I need to do is create the balloon line up and then outline the balloon in black. Back, of course, looks like this. But you know, that gets tucked away. You never have to look at that. Alrighty. Ta-da! Full disclosure, I ended up going back into this hat and editing some of the details. So I like elongated his ear, and I smoothed out his hunchback a little bit, and fixed the crease of his nose just to kind of redefine his features a bit better. Like I said in the tutorial, don't be afraid to go back and take out stitches or rearrange stitches that end up being wonky or not looking right. And that's what I did, but off camera. Sorry. That's just the way it happened. My bad. And this is what he looks like on. Ooh. I ended up making a different commission for the person who wanted this color. So this one I decided to do a giveaway on my Instagram, and I just picked the winner this morning, and so I'm gonna ship this one out to the winner of my giveaway. And this is what it looks like. Oh yeah, I'm wearing my Snoopy sweatshirt, so you can't say I don't support Peanuts. Go Peanuts, we love Peanuts. I hope that now you're inspired to embroider on stuff, and it can be daunting, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a little bit easier than you might think. So I don't know, try it out, see if you like it, and practice. Alright, bye.
Woodloo, woodloo, the life of Rosalind is the life for